Let's just do it. I know we're live. Um, Come on. My first episode was. Are you kidding me? My first episode was in
There.
my kitchen, so don't worry about it. Anyway, we're live. What's up, everyone? We got our first three-person panel for the podcast here today. I'm excited. We have Corey and Bethany here with us today. They're the founders of Titan Outsourcing here in Texas, a company that recruits, trains, and provides top-notch virtual assistants to businesses worldwide. In this episode, we're diving deep into the world of virtual assistants and the nuances that come with working with remote teams, particularly those outside of the States. Corey and Bethany are true experts in this field, and they'll be sharing their invaluable insights on everything from best practices to effective communication and delegation to the importance of cultural awareness and nurturing your virtual workforce. A quick intro and word from our sponsors. Finance for individuals and businesses all began with a vision, a community where like minded individuals could gather on social media to share their passions, experience, and knowledge for a brighter future. Our mission is simple to foster growth, development, and keep pushing everyone forward. Keep pushing. Sorry, I just got a little error message. It's good. Our mission is simple to foster growth, development, and keep pushing everyone forward. We believe everyone has the potential to succeed, and we're here to support that journey. Join our community of leaders and visionaries as we learn, grow, and build a brighter future together. For those on YouTube and other platforms, this is originally a Facebook group, and we're going to be keeping it here. Join our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/finance for individuals and businesses. That's facebook.com/groups/finance for individuals and businesses. We'll see you there. On this episode, we'll also discuss the critical role of multiple strategies and tools that help ensure seamless operations and clear expectations when working with virtual assistants. Items like standard operating procedures, SOPs, and various customer relationship management tools, CRMs, are vital to long term success. Whether you're an entrepreneur looking to scale your business by leveraging virtual assistants or simply someone interested in learning more about remote management, this episode is an absolute gold mine. Corey and Bethany Corey and Bethany's wealth of experience and practical strategies are truly invaluable, and I have no doubt you'll walk away with a newfound appreciation for the power of virtual assistants and the tools that make it a success. All right, let's bring Corey and Bethany on. Welcome to the show. It's an honor to have you both here. Before we dive in, your company, Titan Outsourcing, has a really strong why. It's an extremely strong mission. But before telling us about this mission, tell us a little bit about your journey, what inspired you to start Titan Outsourcing.
So, thank you, Ryan, for having us on. Again, as he said, my name's Corey Bayer. I'm one of the founders of Titan Outsourcing.
And I'm Bethany Bayer, founder of Titan Outsourcing, and it's nice to be here in your podcast.
Awesome. Thanks for being here.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having us. So, you asked what inspired us to kind of start our business, start outsourcing, essentially. So, we ended up joining a mastermind back in 2021. And I joined it originally just because I wanted to be around business people. Most people in your life, you don't, at least in my life here, I didn't have a lot of people who own businesses that I could talk to or network with or just vent. You can't talk to, an average person about spending $30,000 a month in business expenses on credit cards and payroll and all these other things. So we ended up joining this mastermind up in Dallas and just started getting to know people. And while we were in it, still small, so a lot of people would always ask, "Hey, do you know someone who can design a logo or make a website or this and that?" Um, I'd gone to the Philippines numerous times since I got out of the military and back from Afghanistan in 2011, and so I'd already inadvertently used a virtual assistant and had them design my logo for my store for, $25. And I was like, yeah, I know someone. They're in the Philippines if that doesn't matter. Bethany, she had just gotten to the US from the Philippines. I married her in the Philippines and brought her here during the pandemic. And she's like, "Oh, I know a bunch of people too." And we're over here thinking we're the forefront of the industry, like creating something that's never been heard of before. But we found out we were clearly mistaken on that one. Um, but it just kind of happened where, we just saw a need inside of our group and we're like, "Hey, yeah, we got someone." So we kind of just pulled a number out of air and was like, "Okay, let's see if we can get someone to get our services for this price." And we talked to some people about it. They developed trust in us, and we placed our first virtual assistant. And we're like, "Holy crap, this worked!" And it took us, 6 months, maybe a year of just kind of playing with the idea, teasing it, like, okay, are we able to grow it and build it? And it just slowly started picking up, and we get more customers. And then from there, we get different referrals. And each time was a unique challenge, at least in my opinion. What about you, Bethany?
So we started this company, as Corey said, that we joined the networking group, and I am just listening to the people that are talking business. I mean, I work as a government employee, but I do sales in the Philippines, but not like here in US. But while I'm listening to their conversation, I said I knew people that work in call centers. I have a lot of friends that work in the call center industry or BPO industry, and we started that idea and then put into work. And Corey's the one that closing the sales and leads, and I do the recruitment because I can speak in Filipino, I can speak in English, and I can easily connect with people in the Philippines. And after a year, I was like, this really works out for us, not only like for our business, but also to the Filipinos, that they start to have way like high paying jobs than other normal Filipino that working paycheck to paycheck. I'm not saying that they're rich, but you can really see the life change, that they have there. And I have one VA that when I interview him, he's kind of skinny. Now he's kind of little, chubby, fluffy, because they can afford to buy food. And it's not a bad thing, that you see other people lives change and they can provide to their family and also get the things that they can't afford before. So it's really really cool. And um so yeah, that how we started this idea, and then now we really building a brand and make our process really like good. And we have these trainings and SOPs now.
Hmm. For
Yeah.
sure. That's awesome. And I know you kind of touched on the mission. The mission is pretty strong. Do you want to kind of go into a little more detail on your mission, the purpose?
Yeah, absolutely. So the mission is just because there's two culture in this company, which is the U.S. culture, which is Corey's side, and the Filipino culture, which is my side, and you connect those together, and it creates a really good like mission that we want to help our fellow business owners to grow and leverage their business through the help of virtual assistant. And also we want to give, or I want to give back to my fellow Filipinos, my countrymen in the Philippines. I want to provide them jobs and opportunities that you can't get there as a normal worker. And that is like my mission is to change lives for sure.
Right. And that's super cool to see. And you touched on being able to see the impact that you're making and how fast that impact really sets a tone and their
Hmm.
future lifestyle. Because there a lot of uh, Filipino people have strong work ethics, and sometimes they just need an opportunity. So it's cool to see that you guys are doing that. Um, and I know that you guys have been doing this for a while now and had a lot of different projects, different things that you worked on. I was just curious, like what was probably one of your more interesting projects that you've worked on recently?
So both past and recently, I'd have to say we work with a international logistics operating company out of Chicago. They 2 years ago they got a hold of us and they needed us to find them a import export like specialist who knew how to, navigating negotiations for tariffs, how to do the documents, how to coordinate the shipping, flight, and or I guess shipping, freight, flight, and train from overseas in China to US ports to delivery destination in Chicago. So it took us a while, but we found them that person. And probably a little over a month ago, that original client called me out of the blue and was like, "Hey, Corey, just curious, are y'all still doing the virtual assistant thing?" And I was like, "Yes, sir, we are." And they now needed an accounting specialist in CargoWise software. So just a normal person who's familiar with bookkeeping or CPA work, QuickBooks, like wasn't going to cut it. They needed someone who specifically had this skill set with this software because it sped up their onboarding time. So it took us a little bit, but we found someone who was able to interview with their executives and have a very high level conversation about, you know, processing shipments, receiving documents, like they knew all the right lingo essentially.
Hmm.
And they ended up getting the job. And those were probably two of the more challenging but fun jobs that we have definitely recruited for.
For
At least
sure.
in my opinion. I'm sure Bethany may have a different one.
Bethany, do you have a different one?
For the projects that I'm working on recently.
Yeah, like what's a interesting project that you guys recently had?
Oh, the interesting part that I'm working on is I'm building my virtual assistant academy, and I want to teach other Filipinos who wants to dive in a freelancing career and virtual assistant career. So I want to share that knowledge to them and how to start and make money and change their lives. So that is my big project that I'm working on recently. I'm making the lesson plans and making the or uploading videos and audiobook inside our CRM, and I call it Executive Virtual Assistant Academy. So that's what I'm working on recently, but I haven't really um, show it to public yet because I'm not finished. So if it's finished, then I will tell the world that hey, the
Right?
academy is open for virtual assistants and people who wants to be a VA.
That's awesome. Or do you have an acronym for it? Is it EVA? Executive Virtual Assistant, EVA?
Yeah,
Um,
Executive VA Academy. So I get that name from the previous name of our company, which is Executive VA, and I wanna uh, make it live again and
mhm.
after we change it to Titan Outsourcing. But I get that name from our previous company name, which is Executive VA, and I just add Executive VA Academy. And yeah, I
Right.
want to rebuild that brand again because it's a
Yeah.
good brand. There's so much SEO attachment to it, like Executive VA, Executive, you know what I mean?
Yeah. SEO is a really big piece, especially with organic reach.
Right.
Um,
Absolutely.
So the academy definitely makes sense, especially whenever you're trying to actively recruit. It's probably going to be pretty easy to pick off students to help students who need more help. You can identify that a whole lot easier, knowing what they're kind of failing at, knowing what they're kind of good at, and everything. So that's pretty cool. Is the I'm sure the executive assistance program is going to waterfall into your other clientele. So that's pretty cool. It's going to
Hmm.
continue feeding your machine. Um, kind of
And
working.
it'll
Go
work
ahead.
both ways actually. So not only will it help enhance our pool of applicants, but it'll also be a upsell feature essentially, or a perk to our existing clients as they have virtual assistants. If they need additional training, we'll already have these courses that their VAs can join free of charge. So
Hmm.
um, really good for both directions.
That's awesome. That's a pretty huge tool for VAs, and they'll. Do you guys have like an expected launch date for something like that?
My expected launch date is probably next month or so. Coming summer. That's
That's awesome.
my target. Yes. I
Yeah.
just don't want to release and make it public yet because I want because kind of also perfectionist that I want everything that's dialed in and aligned. I just don't want to teach people and I'm not ready either. So I want to make sure that the target date is where also I am ready.
Right, for sure. And make sure it's scalable. You have your community and you kind of have all your ducks in a row. So it's a
Mhm.
seamless process whenever you start and not
Mhm.
doesn't hinder too much on your existing time.
Yes, sir.
Um,
We've also learned over the years, we've sent Bethany or various members of our team to other like Philippine-based like VA training groups or training classes. And while they're okay, the problem is they look at let's take social media management. They look at that from the perspective of managing it through the eyes of a Filipino, which I'm not saying there's anything wrong with managing your social media how Filipinos do in the Philippines, but it's a completely different style of management when you're managing it on behalf of a US client who is leveraging a lot of money on growing this platform, or it's just the importance of the training being tailored specifically towards American clientele is much more um, important through our group than with others.
right. And it's pretty easy to kind of tell that it will probably, I mean, it will have a bigger effect whenever they go through your academy just because I mean your core mission kind of surrounds that that handoff from business in US to business in the Philippines back to business in the US, with that training and everything. So I think a lot of that really goes hand in hand. Super cool to see. You guys have created a nice little monster. It's
We're just getting
um,
started.
right, right. So working with VAs, I know that there's a lot of nuances, especially whenever you're working with remote VAs out of the state. You have your time zone difference, and you have a couple other things. What kind of tips or how would you make it? How would you recommend people to streamline if they were to work with a virtual assistant? I know we talked about sending emails early in the morning. Um, there's just a lot of communication that's really needed when working with a virtual assistant. I was just curious if you had any additional tips.
Absolutely. So there's a couple different things. One, and first and probably most important, is communication. You want to communicate with them regularly. Um, if you have a traditional business, think of it in the sense of, okay, cool. How often do you see your secretary, your office manager, the people that work directly with you? You see them every day. You talk with them every day. Um, Issue pops up, maybe not every day, but something happens every day where y'all are always in some sort of communication. Talk to your VA, same thing. Ideally, truly talk with them every day. Treat them as if they're actually important to you, an actual team member. Don't treat them like they're software, and use them when you need them. Like, that's not the best way to run things, unless they are emergency critical support and you only contact them because something fails. Like, then obviously it's a little different. But most people are hiring them as office managers, personal assistants. Like, you want that open communication through Facebook or WhatsApp, texting services. Like, we use Google Chats. There's lots of other platforms like Slack and things like that. So the communication is important. When you're first starting out, I would say make sure they work your working hours, even if you may not need them. If, like, graphic design artist, they could be free hour work offset of you. Make them work your hours just to get to know them, to build that communication and that relationship with them. If you ideally, you should have SOPs created, but if you do not, because this does happen, a lot of people are first time entrepreneurs, or they've been solopreneurs for a while. They may have their processes going, they know how to do it, and they're finally in the place that, hey, I'm getting too busy, I need to hire someone. If you don't have those SOPs created, use a software like Loom or Zoom. Do a training with your virtual assistant, screen record exactly what you need to be done from the very beginning. Like, don't just be like, hey, this is, go to this website. Like, break it down Barney style. Be like, all right, cool. Go into Google Chrome, then go to this, type in that address. Here. Every step laid out. It may take you a little bit longer, but it's going to give that clear step-by-step process for this application. Then watch it with them, have them watch it, then take that along with performing the task and have them use Microsoft Word or Google Docs and create a printable SOP. Review it, see if there's anything missing. Cool. Let them practice it after, 2 weeks or maybe a month. Once you feel like they have the hand on it, be like, hey, I'm a new employee. I need you to teach me how to do this role. And if they can successfully teach you what they've been practicing over the last month without, any hand holding or missing a beat, cool. Sign off on it, and you have full confidence that they know how to do that.
That method is actually pretty smart, where you're not necessarily, I mean, as it is kind of a test, but just making sure that they can teach it to other people as well, because obviously once you start a virtual team, it's very easy to scale from there, and you'll still
Mhm,
need kind of a hierarchy of VAs, almost to mimic like another management team.
mhm,
Um, so that's a very, very good point. Obviously, whenever you're working with the VA secretary and all those people, um, people tend to treat people better in person, but just because they can't see them, they treat them a little bit differently, or maybe they're in a different country and they treat them a little less than human. Um, I know that's kind of an ongoing problem here and there, so it's interesting to kind of see what that transition looks like. Um, but I definitely think whenever you start communicating every single day, every single morning, or at least once a week at a bare minimum, especially if they're actively working for you. I mean, obviously, you want to keep an eye on it, make sure the I's are getting dotted, T's are getting crossed. Um, I think communication is definitely going to help you a lot there, especially just to understand what their mindset is, how their mind works, what they think of whenever they see certain tasks, what they need to work on. So it's definitely good to keep a open line of communication. Um, there are there is one thing that we talked about the other day with toxic work traits that VAs might have. Can you kind of go into detail on those?
Yeah, so I'll let Bethany explain kind of the culture in the Philippines here in a second.
Hmm.
But from a U.S. entrepreneur standpoint, um, you will find a lot of Filipinos operate in black and white. I feel like this is derived from coming from call centers. You know, they work at a support agent. We've all called a call center, and the first person you talk to, they're like, I can only do so much. Let me message someone else for an answer, or let me go ahead and jump you to the next level of support, and then they're allowed to give you a better answer. They're just some of them come like so bound with restrictions that they're not allowed, or they don't think they're allowed to be free thinkers anymore, to give their opinions, um, because of how they were treated in the Philippines. So as an entrepreneur, as someone who's using a virtual assistant, like, you want to encourage them to think and operate independently, to be able to, truly and effectively utilize them. They're incredibly smart individuals, but a lot of them are very shy because of
Mhm.
how they've been treated, or culturally they're talked about. My kid's sick. Oh, I just can't say anything to work, or I get fired, and then I'm in a worse situation. But like, you nurture them to be more outspoken, and they will be an amazing asset. And I'll let Bethany kind of explain a little bit about how work environment and how they're treated in the Philippines can dictate why they're sometimes reserved and shy.
Yeah, in terms of working with a virtual assistant, a lot of VAs are shy to ask help or shy to ask permission because, for example, they don't know the answer or they don't know the task or they don't know how the system works for the first time. They're scared to ask because in the Philippines, if you ask, it feels like you are stupid. And as a Filipino worker, you need to figure out yourself. But for virtual assistant and business owner, does that character or treatment should not exist in this industry because as a virtual assistant, you need to communicate with your client and not hiding from them. If something happened to a family member, I would tell our virtual assistant, you should let your client know because it will affect your job. And if you don't have a job, you get fired, then you lose your work, you don't have money. So ask them to always communicate. And if they gonna ask, they will say, well, I don't want to feel stupid. And I said, that's not being stupid. You don't know, so you need help. So that's how we also coach our VAs and have call one-on-one with them that there's nothing wrong in asking help, and we're not perfect and we're not super genius that you know everything. You know something that I don't know and I know something that you don't know, so asking help is very, very important.
Now, with that being said, I do want to say one thing. Like, there may be times, that they're asking help for work. Like, cool, help them out with work.
Mhm.
There will be times, they struggle with stuff. But if you are employing a virtual assistant and you've told them countless times how to do this job, and they're just never picking it up, even if you like them, and that sometimes is a problem, is they clients build a friendship or really like the VA. Like, if they're not picking it up, replace them. It's not worth your headache. Like, yes, they're good people. You may like them, but like at some point, if they just can't grasp or pick up the job, there's someone else out there for you. It's
Mhm.
same business concepts. If you have someone here locally, yeah, you're saving a lot of money using the virtual assistant. So you may not think that's like, that's not a big deal. I'm helping them. No, just replace them and you'll find someone. We'll get you someone that will significantly outperform them. Additionally, as Bethany said, asking for help. Like if there's a point where your virtual assistant, because it has happened to clients, it's happened to us. If they ask you to for a payroll advance or something like that because something's going on, you do not have to do it. You do not need to feel obligated to do it. If you want to, that's okay. But it's definitely not something that you should ever feel a need or obligation to do.
Is that like a advance? Is that pretty common?
It is pretty common because people there live paycheck to paycheck. Everything is tied, like they live loan to loan. So if they have a job and something happened, like their family member is sick or they really need the money so bad, usually they will ask for a cash advance, like advance for their salary, let's say
Hmm.
a week advance, and they're not going to get their salary in the next week, for example. It is pretty common in the Philippines because not a lot of Filipino are paid well, and I think they also have that. Um, we also have that culture. I'm not saying it is good or it's kind of like a toxic culture that if you are the one that earning in the family, you have a big salary, let's say, and your family will also think that, oh, she can take care of everyone, all of us. So we have a call with one of our VA. I'm not going to say the name, but she is carrying the burden of her whole family because she's the one that earning bigger than anyone else. So they are very like reliant to the VA, and if they have something coming up they will think that, oh, she can take care of us, and then that person, they didn't realize that the VA also like think I don't have any money for myself, or I didn't have savings, and if something happened, someone died in the family or in a hospital, she will ask for an advance because she's taking care of everyone. That's like, the background of why they are asking for
Yeah,
advanced salary.
yeah, it's
Hmm.
definitely a culture thing over there. Um, Here in the US, you go to a hospital, your family member's in a hospital, you have a nurse that takes care of you. In the Philippines, that's not the case. Your family has to be there 24/7 to feed you, bring you food. If they have to give you a bath, give you a bath. So, like, we've had virtual assistants whose family members are in the hospital and they're juggling it. Like, if they don't communicate that to the client, their work's going to perform because they're never sleeping. Um, we counsel and coach our virtual assistants. It's one of the things we do that other places don't, that we try to break cultural norms, which is, hey, it's okay to be selfish and focus on your family, or sorry, focus on yourself, your spouse, and your kid. Everyone else, they can figure it out. They've done it before. They did it before you had this job. Like, take care of yourself first, secure your income and your future, then you can help easier. But if you're working yourself into a hole while trying to fill up that hole, you're never going to get anywhere. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's that's definitely a lot to deal with whenever you're carrying that burden of the family, and understandably so. It's not always a bad thing whenever you're providing for your family.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
It's more don't get me wrong, there's a lot of work to it, and it's a heavy weight to bear, but I think there's a lot of honor in doing something like that. So it's cool that it's also a cultural thing. It's not just
Well,
one family or a small amount, it's pretty
it
significant.
and I would agree, Ryan, that you're taking care of your family. However, like what what happens is like it starts becoming you're having to take care of not just your household, but your extended household and your
Right.
extended household's household. Like if your parents have 8 kids, you could be the person who is solely responsible for taking care of your siblings' spouses, your siblings' kids, your own kids, your parents. Like it just
Totals up
it's
really
it's
fast.
it's noble. It really is, but at some point you have to say no.
Yeah,
Right.
for sure. For sure. And I agree on the immediate family. I believe if I can't feed myself, how am I going to be able to feed others?
Exactly. Yeah.
Especially for a long-term solution. So it's not like a company can start one day and hits the ground running with 50 employees on day one. Like you have to build it up over time and let them continue feeding the business. It's just kind of how it goes. So completely get it. Um, with hiring VAs and hiring here in the US, what do you see as kind of like the difference in hiring practices between the Philippines and the US?
So I'm going to say this just virtual assistants in general, not just the Philippines. So I have a retail store here in the US, here in Texas, and it is very difficult to get an employee who wants to work. Um, I've talked to business owners all over the US. Yeah, people are here for jobs, but a lot of them, okay, cool. They don't have skill sets, or they are always needing off, or they don't want to show up on time.
Mhm.
There's a lot of hangups about hiring your management and or the non-managerial roles and below that just a lot of businesses struggle with. Like people will leave without notice. They'll just up and quit. They have no care, no loyalty. And understandably, that does come with, the business should be paying them or taking care of them. But even on instances where the business takes care of them, like they still don't want to show up. They'd rather go out, hang out with friends. And it's I think a lot of the issues started around COVID when everyone was told to go home, figure it out, and the government was giving out free money. So a lot of people just kind of were it broke a lot of people's inherent work ethic. And people have been struggling to kind of rebuild that drive again. Um, and also culturally, a lot of people, it's like, cool, I get to grind away at this job. Yeah, it may be the best I can get here in this town and it pays my bills, but I have nothing left over. All right, well, I'm going to try to find something else. And everyone's just job hops and no loyalty. Whereas when outsourcing to another country, you can find someone who you can now pay significantly less than even minimum wage. Or let's say you pay them minimum wage. Let's say you pay someone in the Philippines $7.25 an hour. One, you can't pay anyone in Texas or let alone pretty much anywhere in the US 7.25 and expect them to last very long. But now you're paying this person more than what, like 30 years seasoned, like government workers are making over in the Philippines. They're making upper middle class, like family of five kind of income, and they're going to be ideally very loyal to you, your company, the check, showing up on time. They're there to work and take care of business because you're providing them with an opportunity that is near impossible for them to get locally.
Right. The breakdown of that, I mean, I get that it's definitely not just the Philippines, but hearing the hiring difference, it's pretty common here in the States with what you said about finding good workers.
Mhm.
You really got to pay the piper on that one to find good workers, but even then, it's not paying the piper isn't 100% reliable. You
Mhm.
really gotta find a diamond in the rough if you're going to find someone as cheap as a VA to find a superstar, because finding one or two superstars could easily change the face of your company. And it's going to be pretty hard to do that with someone at minimum wage in the States, but someone at minimum wage outside of the States, you'd have a lot better chance.
Oh, it's impossible in the States. You're gonna be lucky to find a diamond in the rough nowadays at $15 an hour.
Right.
I mean, just in my town, they advertise McDonald's to be a fry cook for 14. Like, that's already almost double minimum wage here. Like,
Hmm.
I mean, you have to make concessions and change, but like even at that, like even $14 an hour, you're still struggling here in the States to get get by, pay rent. If you have a car payment, phone, like you're struggling at that.
Hmm.
And places are trying to go and adapt, but with inflation and everything else that's going on, like especially some smaller mom and pop or family owned businesses, like they can't go out here and compete with, Amazon and Walmart prices. So they're losing customers left and right. Places are coming in, and Amazon's being built just around the corner from where I live. Like they're going to pay from like 22 to like $28 an hour. Like your small businesses can't compete with that. And then their prices are low. So like it makes it even that much the barrier of success even harder for smaller businesses at times. And that's where having good virtual assistants, even if you use, companies that manage the payroll for you, charge, $10 an hour or say a fixed rate of $2,000 a month, like
Right.
that's where they're still saving money, and they got someone who wants to show up and wants to be there and is invested in helping you grow, because your growth means their long-term employment. Whereas
Mhm.
regular employees, they're going to stick it out with you till they feel you can't pay anymore, then they're just going to hop to find the next place that pays them. And
Right.
as they should. And
Right.
it's hard to say, but like if you can't pay and you're worth more than what you're getting paid, find a job that pays you what you're worth.
Right. And we also have a client that those clients that we have, it's their first time to work with a virtual assistant. So they are messaging us and said, "Hey, Bethany, Corey, is it normal that our VA is still working out of her shift?" And I said, "So this is the so virtual assistant who works outside of their shift already, it's their way to show the gratitude that you hire them. And it sounds like it's not a lot to pay $5 per hour, but it's a lot for them, the people that you outsource in other country, and they work harder than, for my experience. I work in the Philippines. I have a experience working here in US, and I can say that the VAs we have, or the people that I knew in the Philippines, are the most hardworking person that I've ever met. That they're still working outside of their shift,
Hmm.
Not even
and
getting paid. They're just like, oh, I put in like 10 hours on Saturday because,
they just want to
I was
help.
a little behind or the client was behind and we just want to.
Mhm.
That is not something you should expect or demand of your virtual assistant. And if it is something that they're willing to do, definitely give them a bonus and show appreciation. But it is something that can happen and has happened. A lot of our VAs have done that for our clients.
Yeah. I've worked with a couple of VAs, and work ethic is definitely on par with everything that you're saying. Whether they did it right or not doesn't matter, but the effort is always there, and it's something that you can truly appreciate because it's not something that you usually come across here in the States. Um, it's definitely far and few between here. Um,
Mhm.
Yeah.
but once you bring on a VA, I know we talked a little bit about SOP, standard operating procedures, and creating that template, even down to how you're responding to emails. As can you kind of go into a little detail why SOPs are so important whenever you're getting a VA?
So SOPs, if you're not familiar with the term standard operating procedures, it's important for your business in general. It's not just important if you have a virtual assistant or anything like that. Because depending on where you're at in your business, if you're still kind of startup-ish, at some point your goal is to probably bring physical staff in to have it. So SOPs are important because they are essentially a roadmap to do a task. Um, if you are dealing with your customers' credit cards and billing and things like that, like you want to know, hey, this is how billing is entered, processed, categorized, and performed. So we're not double billing or anything like that or misusing credit cards. Same thing. You hire someone locally who is sitting in your office and you tell them, hey, I need you to order me. Let's go with my roof right now. I need you to order, $5,000 worth of roofing materials for this job. Okay, cool. Well, when they do that, they should process it, log it, notify, and make sure it's set up so if someone looks in that account, they don't accidentally reorder another $5,000 worth of supplies. Um, so it's a good practice in general to just make sure jobs are performed at the expectation and level your company sets. Make sure your core values are followed, your missions followed, um, and everything is performed to the quality that the owner of the business expects. And that is a summarization of why SOPs are important, whether it's for virtual assistants or local staff. It's just, it makes your job easier.
Yeah,
Um, because if you, let's take it, you're a solopreneur, you know everything about your business. You know how to log into all your accounts, you know how to do all this, you know how to do everything. You hire someone locally, you're going to have to spend that time teaching them. And if you don't document that down and they up and quit, then when you rehire someone, you have no documentations. You got to spend all that time reteaching them the exact same thing you just taught. But you take an extra 30 minutes of your day and while you're teaching them, create those SOPs and stuff like that. Then your training and onboarding process is easier. You have those SOPs. So, when they hit you up with a question, it's like, hey, go review the SOP. If you still can't figure it out and you can show me it's missing in there, I'll come help you. Like it's a good tool to prevent unneeded questions if you know it's in an SOP as well.
right. And that's in previous companies that I started, we created a lot of SOPs to create like a more plug and play environment. And that's pretty much what it is. It's to create those processes in place. So like you said, you can go and hire someone and find a replacement a lot easier. You can train them a whole lot faster, and they can always have a reference or a training manual to go back to for the SOPs. Um, Delegating with expectations is, I think, what you called it. I think that was pretty good. And then just inspecting what you expect whenever you set those rules and procedures moving forward, because it's not like you can always just hand it off just be assured for no reason that it's going to get done. It's just like hiring anybody else. You just have to check it out and double check the work sometimes.
Yes, sir.
What kind of tools? I know we talked about CRMs a little bit. Hubstaff is a great one. I definitely want you to go into detail on that. But what what CRMs or kind of what tool strategies would you suggest to people? I know there's usually two different options. You can either build one whenever you start working with a VA or use an existing platform that you have.
Hmm.
Um, but
And
yeah, go ahead.
oh, I was gonna say, just for clarification, when you're referring to CRM, just in case someone's not familiar with the term, are you referring to like your client management system?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So client management systems, they all vary. If you do not have one existing, um, don't get sold on all the bells and whistles of what's crazy. Um, if you're still a very small entrepreneur, you can technically get by with Excel or spreadsheets. But as you go, I would say look into a software like we personally use Go High Level. Um, it is very nice system. You can call and text from it. You can allow your virtual assistants to call from that system in the Philippines. They can text and email your clients all from that one database. You can handle billing. It's a very comprehensive platform.
Hmm.
So if you are looking for a good CRM, you can reach out to Go High Level, and you'll have to build it all yourself from scratch, which it does have a pretty steep learning curve. It's not impossible. There's lots of information on YouTube and things like that. Or you can find a virtual assistant. They can build that all out for you. They typically cost anywhere from about $8 to $15 an hour, depending on where you're getting them from and things like that. Or you can go through a white label party who is going to provide you the tech support, everything like that, and they'll build out your system. But if they're going to do that, it can range anywhere from several $1,000s up front, and then you're paying, a couple $100s or more a month just to use their white label version of Go High Level or another system like that.
Using a third party that's white labeled, is there more restrictions or is it just built kind of industry specific?
So yes and no. So the restrictions are going to essentially be as if so this is going to be the software as a service. Um, It's going to very much operate similarly to how Go High Level is. However, the restriction with that is you no longer have access to Go High Level, like calling them for customer support. You would have to call the white label person for all your tech and customer support. You can still use Go High Levels like basic support articles and things like that. Um, but if there's major issues or anything like that going on with how the system is built, it's on the white label operator to repair those. Um, that is sometimes it's an absolutely amazing thing. There are some white label companies out there that have this system, they have it built down, and they perform better at troubleshooting and tech service than Go High Level themselves. Now, obviously, there are levels to it. There can be some things that are just truly a like software issue that they can't fix, and but they're going to take care of that for you. Then there's other ones, cool. You're like, hey, let's get this done. And they barely even know the system. They barely fix your things. They barely help you with anything at all. So if you're gonna go for a third party that uses a white label variation of Go High Level, do your due diligence and just make sure it's something that is really going to benefit you. Because otherwise, your best bet is to just go straight through Go High Level, spend spend the money you're going to spend for them on their third party software, and hire someone, whether it's through a company like ours or Fiverr, Upwork, something like that, and just
Mhm.
bring someone in who has a good track record to build out your system, then remove them from your system, and then bring all your customers and stuff in and just keep go from there.
Yeah, for sure. Those are pretty good strategies. Um, Building a new CRM and kind of, especially if you've never built a system before, I wouldn't recommend it to anyone. There's a lot of back end stuff that you just kind of need to be aware of, the cause and effect of different procedures and things in a CRM. So I'm not actually completely against a white label at all.
Mhm.
Um, I think sometimes it's a great solution. It definitely can speed up the process. Um, and then with a CRM, it's you can manage your people easier, your virtual assistants easier. You could see the work that they're doing. I know that there's another system, Hubstaff was the name of
Mhm.
it,
Yes.
and that one had really interesting virtual tracking tools.
Yes.
Um,
Oh, go ahead.
no. I was going to ask if you could mention a couple of the tracking tools. I know this is not your software per se. You don't have ownership in it, right?
No, no, I
Okay.
wish. I
No,
wish.
it's a great
But
system. I wouldn't blame you, man. I wouldn't blame you. But there's a couple really cool things about it if you don't mind sharing.
so Hubstaff is that there's a lot to it that I don't fully utilize. Um, but in a nutshell, it's a time clock system to so you can track your employees clock in and out. Um, but beyond that, if you're doing, say, marketing or job management, social media management, things like that, you can start logging different things in so you know what task your employees are working on at any given time. It also will allow you to bill those billable hours to your clients. So that is a cool system. I don't fully use it that way, so I can't go too in detail on that side. However, what we will use it for is tracking virtual assistants' productivity, what they're working on. You can set it up where it will track the physical location of where the user's logged in at. They when you require them to work from a computer, not from your phone, it will take screenshots of every monitor that's connected to their computer up to 3 times every 10 minutes. So you'll be able to know everything that's kind of going on, what they're working on, how they're being productive, really at any given moment during the time they clock in within that system. Then from there, it also breaks down the percentage of time that they spend on different web applications, websites, applications, things like that. So you can start getting very detailed and seeing, hey, is this VA actually being productive, or even my traditional employees being productive, or are they just messing around?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And how it took well, I mean, the whole thing, how it tracks is super interesting. I think it's pretty darn smart. But I thought it was interesting how they also track the applications, track the websites that they're visiting, and just track their activity, what they're doing, and how they're spending their time during the
Mhm,
allotted time that you're supposed to be paying them and that they're supposed to be earning their money. Um, very great tool. And then you also spoke about another kind of strategy with remote desktop access, having just a standalone laptop or a standalone tower.
mhm.
Um, could you share that little strategy? I thought that was genius.
Yeah, no. So a lot of people, some of their initial reservations is, how do I trust someone on the other side of the world? Do I give them my Facebook? Do I give them all this so they can log into my systems? Things like that. Um, well, if you don't trust them right away and you have an extra computer, there is a setting in your computer that you can enable called remote desktop. Um, you can, some systems have it for free, or you can find a software online that's a paid system that allows you to control whoever, someone who's able to log in and out of your computer. Um, the reason this is beneficial is because you can set your computer up however you want. You can have all your logins, everything saved on the computer, where once they log in, like unless they know specific passcodes, like it's not gonna, they can't view them. Your passwords are already saved in your browser's cache, so they can go to your Facebook, your Instagrams. They can go to your LinkedIn. LinkedIn's a big one that if you are logging into it from multiple like IP locations or like countries, it'll lock you out of their whole system because they don't want people doing that. So
Yeah, for
using
sure.
remote desktop is a great way for that. Some virtual assistants, um, they don't have the fastest internet, or they don't have the most powerful computers. So if you have a decent computer and you're needing them to edit videos and stuff like that, cool. Just keep them on your local hard drive. They log into your system. They do all the edits right on your computer and then upload it, instead of having to wait on the internet to upload it to Google Drive or or Dropbox or some system like that. Then they download it, then re-upload it. It just makes a really seamless kind of transition.
Right. And then just I I can't really, well, I mean, I can because I've done it before, but sitting next to a laptop that's constantly working and you don't see the individual, it's kind of trippy, but it's pretty cool. Just being able to see them actively working.
Well, yeah, but I'm sure you've called tech support or something like that, like Best Buys. I've used it before where
Geek
they need to
Squad for
trouble
sure.
something. Yeah, they troubleshoot shoot something on your computer and they're just moving it around. I mean, it's the same concept, just with far more restrictions than the amount of
Mhm.
restrictions they would have on a tech troubleshooting side. But I mean, it's a no-brainer. Um, a lot of bookkeeping and accounting clients of ours will do something like that. We also have a client that he has like 10 virtual assistants, and in his office, they've gone ahead and set up like 10 different, what do you call, like the cheap like Roku TVs for like $100 a piece. And
Nice.
every day all 10 of the VAs log in and are on a separate computer, and they all just are able to like be in the same room, and he can look and talk to anyone he wants to, and that is his requirement.
That's that's pretty interesting. That's a pretty smart way to streamline and see everything at the same exact time. What industry is that person in to have 10 VAs pretty much on call like that?
The roofing and solar industry. So a lot of them do clerical work, some do admin work, some
Hmm.
do lead gen and stuff like that. So like they're all just sitting on their computer, Zoom screen. Sometimes they're muted, sometimes they're not, but like they're just muted, just working away. So you know if they're awake or if they're asleep.
Pretty much.
Right. And then I think there's like an alert or something if there's no activity or something like that. I think you might have mentioned, but no, that's all super cool. Yeah, the roofing industry, the solar industry, those. Well, I mean, the roofing industry here in Texas is definitely doing good this year with all the storms that have rolled in.
Mhm.
So I'm sure that's been a nice little spike of clientele. It has been on my end, health insurance side. They're just yeah, roofing in Texas is going through a little boom right now.
It's going through
Um,
the roof. Ha, ha.
yeah, for sure. That's good. That's funny. In regards to, I know we kind of went over SOPs, CRMs, hiring. I mean, everything from tips and tricks. is there anything that you think would really help someone try to onboard a VA? Obviously, going through you guys is going to be the best way possible. Um, but is there anything that they could also prepare for so they can kind of get everything ready?
So looking at this as from the viewpoint of someone who let's say, Ryan, you're going to go search on Facebook and try to find and hire a virtual assistant to work for you on your own. um, you need a very clear and defined idea of what you're looking for, what your pain points are, what expectations you want. You should consider your performance metrics, like think long and hard. Obviously, we all want to hire a person who's able to do the job immediately day one, but look at where I expect them to be in 2 weeks, 30 days, 45 days, 60, 90. Um, because if you have those expectations and you make those clear before you ever hire someone and while you're interviewing them, then at 2 week or 30-day marker, it's like, okay, cool, I need to pull the plug. If you're looking for one yourself, be prepared for hundreds of messages. Um, create some sort of barrier of entry, because you will get tons of messages that are horrible English from random people, like how apply, interested, and that's just pop up. I don't even know what you're interested in. So those clear expectations, be prepared for a lot of messages, explain the job in great detail. If they've worked with other clients in the US, find out the name of the clients, give them a call and check for work references. The industry average for virtual assistants is between 2 to 4 months. Um, so if you're hiring someone that you randomly found on Facebook for lead generation, and they only worked for a client for 4 months, I can safely assume that they probably were not very good, because if you're good at lead generation, you're going to stay with the client. But double check them, check their resume, call their client they worked for if they list it. If they're not willing to give you the client that they work for, they're like, oh, I can't say that, blah, blah, blah. It's confidential information. They're not bound by confidentiality.
Hmm.
It gives me the thought process that they probably ended on bad terms. That being said, they could have worked for another outsourcing company, like say Titan Outsourcing, and you know, then we placed them with a client. They may or may not kind of give that way, but that's lots of questions. And then Bethany's a really good judge of character, so she can probably give some tips too.
Oh yeah, I've been doing interviews with VAs for 2 years straight, and before I onboard recruiters and HRs in my team, but I make sure that when I look in their resume, they don't do like job hopping, and I also ask why you um, jump from this client to another client, or from this company to other company. And if sometimes, like, if it's too good to be true, I make sure that I also do background checks with them, because I'm not saying like all VAs, even here in US, like you can be really good in interviews, but you suck in work. So I also make sure that, I mean, that's
Good
reality.
on paper, bad
No,
in
for sure.
reality.
For
Yeah,
sure.
and I've been dealing with those VAs, and some like rebuttal at me is like, "Oh, I'm worth $11 per hour. I have a family in Michigan that owns a real estate company," and said it depends on the negotiation with the client, and it depends on where the client is located, and I can't I can promise you that $11 per hour, and then like I have this experience that they are older than me, and then they feel like let's say they are kind of rude as an applicant, but I make sure that before I place someone uh in a company or a client, I make sure that they have that character that align to the company's mission and the core values of the client, not just like just because they are good in interview I'll just place them. I'll make sure that I check their portfolio. We do background checks in the Philippines. We check their IDs that they say this is their name, and saying that who really because if you notice, or I don't know if you notice this, if you engage with like a lot of VAs, they have different names in Facebook. They have kind of crazy weird names, and they have a different name in Facebook and in their original ID. So I make sure that they are the person that they are telling who they are. So based on my experience, those are like make sure they align to your core values, mission of your company, especially if you're like that is your ground of hiring and firing people. If they don't allow align with your mission and core values, and you're not aligned with them anymore, that's the time you fire them. So for me, that's my uh, tips to those who wants to hire virtual assistant by themselves, or even they will hire Titan to find the VA for them.
And I will say one other thing: if you're hiring directly, not going through an outsourcing company, educate yourself on average salary incomes for where you are trying to like outsource to.
Mhm.
Um, we've had individuals, again, sh- she got a VA from us, and she's used to paying people here, $28 an hour to be a graphic designer and video editors. And we initially negotiated a reasonable rate. I think it was like $6 an hour. And after like a year, she's like, we've or I don't even think it was a year. She's like, we already bumped her up to like $16 an hour. And like,
Damn.
while I do, and I strongly agree, if you have really, really strong VAs that you would never want to lose, to pay them really well, like I am all for paying a VA up to even $20 an hour. However, they better be able and operating like C-level, C-suite employees, like no issues. You can give them the keys to the business and walk away, and it's going to be perfectly fine when you get back. Like those are the type that you want. It's worth paying them more money to keep them around. I've had several clients who, you know, they wish they would have just paid their VA more, or years ago did a buy out the contract so they could have kept the VA because they've never found anyone like them again. But if you're just meeting someone and you're needing basic admin tasks and they tell you, cool, I can do it for $12 an hour. No, like, unless they speak as good as me, they have a great record. No, like, it's way too much when you're outsourcing. Um, put on, if they're wanting, $8 an hour, you're okay with it. Put them on a probationary period. Be like, okay, cool. I'll do $8 an hour. However, it's going to be after 6 months. We're going to start you off at $4. Then after 60 days, we'll jump you to five. Not then every 30 days till we get you up to $8, just to make sure, you don't just, you're as good as you say you are.
Right.
Um, just do a little research. We had to train um, a friend of ours, virtual assistant. He didn't get it from us. He got it from another company, um, to be his executive assistant. And the VA knew nothing and negotiated getting paid $7 an hour. And I was like, honestly, that's a little high. If you're having to pay additional to get them trained, you probably should have started them off at maybe $4 or $5.
Right.
Uh, so just think about it. And again, $7 really isn't anything for us in terms of paying an employee, but make sure you're paying what they are legitimately worth, not what is easy and convenient for you.
Right.
And that's one of the perks of outsourcing to the Philippines and other countries around the world. We offer competitive wages where we're not considered sweatshop or anything like that. We're giving them really good source of income, but you don't want to pay so exorbitantly, even though it's still saving you money, if they're not legitimately worth it and performing tasks that are actually valuable to you.
Right. Yeah. There's uh there's a lot of stuff to download there. I think, yeah, probably I mean, I'm still going to go back to those SOPs that we hit on so many times throughout everything, just making sure that they have kind of everything in line.
Mhm.
Um, that's really going to be a pretty big difference maker. Um, but understanding the pay structure and everything and how they should be paid, how much they should be paid, when they should be paid, if you can or can't send in advance, if they need it, if they don't, there's definitely a lot of things to juggle. And we haven't even gone over the training, how to train, what to do, and all that stuff. That's probably a couple episodes in itself. There's just a lot of work to do whenever you're introducing someone to new tasks, new projects. Not necessarily a new language, but it sometimes it is. There are slang words and different industries, different acronyms to learn that all have to be learned, and that's cool to see you guys training VAs and bringing that to the forefront of businesses here in the U.S., especially small businesses that don't always have the best of budgets. A lot of businesses are bootstrapping, especially nowadays during this economy. It's definitely a huge advantage to find someone. To find a good VA, especially if they were trained by um, the Executive Virtual Assistant Academy.
I like that.
But we've kind of ticked over a little bit over an hour. But I do want to plug you guys real quick. I know we've been talking about Titan outsourcing and everything. Could you guys give your handles, your usernames? Are you on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn? Where can people find you?
So you can find us on all of the social medias. I believe just look up Titan Outsourcing, and we're pretty much the only one that should take us there. I don't know our handles right off the hand, but our website is titanoutsourcing.com. And I believe we have linked all of our social medias and things like that to it. So you should be able to follow our social medias pretty easily from there.
And those links will also be in the description. We're also going to put them live down in the comments so people can follow you. So if you are listening now live or listening later, definitely check out Corey. Definitely check out Bethany. They post quite a bit of good content and solid stuff on Facebook. I'm mainly on Facebook, so I'm a little biased about other platforms right now, but definitely great to follow on Facebook. But again, appreciate you guys coming on. Appreciate you guys sharing all of your knowledge and everything, especially with Titan outsourcing. That's such a cool business concept. Continuing to follow that mission, bring jobs and build businesses. It's, it's great.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you, Ryan.
Yeah, yeah, not a problem. We'll definitely have you guys on again in the future. It's gonna be cool. It's going to be cool to watch you guys continue to grow, especially the networking group. I did want to plug that real quick. The networking group that you're a part of, it's called Apex, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, Apex or Break Free Academy.
Hmm.
It's founded by Ryan Stewman. It's been a really great group. With all masterminds, you'll hear things, has its ups and downs, but we've been in it for over 3 years now. Never had any major issues. Been a great resource just to learn information
Hmm.
about bettering myself as an entrepreneur, as a business person, and as a just human. So
Yeah,
I really like
yeah,
it.
for sure. I haven't talked to a whole bunch of Apex people and people associated with Apex, but the handful that I have, I've got nothing but good reviews for them. They all seem like pretty good people. It's a great little community. Well, hope growing community. It's a great growing
Mhm.
community. It's a lot bigger than it was a couple of years ago. So that's
Hmm.
cool to always see growth. But anyway, great having you guys on,
Yes,
and
sir. Thank you for
we'll
having
definitely
us.
chat again in the future on here. But we'll get all the links and everything in there in the coming days, and talk to you guys in the future.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye bye.